Welcome back to another lesson, and in this lesson we're going to talk about playing in the lower register of your piano. Now, because my camera doesn't cover the entire range of keys on the piano, what I'm going to do is I'm going to transpose 2 octaves down. So I'm actually going to be playing in the center of the piano, but everything is going to be played, the notes that are actually going to sound are going to be 2 octaves lower. So here's the actual, for example, C note. And here it is transposed 2 octaves down. So what's so interesting about the lower register of the piano? Well, things behave slightly differently there. For example, if I just take a simple C major chord, which high up on the piano would sound like this, I'll turn off the transpose. If I just take the same chord and play it 2 octaves down, I just pressed on the transpose, it's going to sound like this. Now, this is a lot more muddy and unclear played 2 octaves down than it is compared, say, to the center of the piano. So you can immediately appreciate that things behave slightly differently at the lower registers. Now, why would you even want to play in these registers? Well, they have a lot of power. The really loudest notes and most dramatic ones are in the lower registers. You know, if you just play an octaves of C's, so I play a C, a C, and a C, and you just push it hard, you get a really powerful sound, and that's really what you're going for when you're playing in the lower registers. Let me show you just an example to get you going. A short bit, then we're going to go back and dissect it. I'm going to play the piano, and I'm going to actually overlay the piano with strings. So I can do this on this digital piano, but the same principles apply to just a piano in itself. So notice how I can really get a very sort of dramatic, dark-ish sort of tone to my playing. So this might be the sort of soundtrack you might imagine in your head when the protagonist marches alone to the into the war zone or embarks into the wilderness or whatever it is. But it definitely has a very specific darkish color to it that you cannot achieve on the higher registers of the piano. Now let's talk a bit about what I played. So as I've remarked, you can't just take the notes and the chords that you're used to from the middle registers and just translate them down 1 or 2 octaves. What you want to do is basically spread out. So you want to use intervals that are not close together. And the intervals that first come to mind on that are octaves, the second highly useful interval that you'd want to explore is fifths. So a fifth, I remind you, is take any note, let's say an F, and count 7 semitones above it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And here you have a fifth, an F and a C. Another example, let's take a D, count 7 semitones up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and here is a fifth. So when I play this, I'm really playing a fifth here. Now between the G and the C, I'm playing a fourth, which is another fairly wide interval. And it's really the inversion of the fifth, right? Here you have a C and a G, and here you have a G and a C. So it's almost the same thing. So let's take the same progression. I was playing, by the way, a C, an E flat, and an F. So let's play those. This is an E flat. Now, when I said this is an E flat, I didn't say if it's a major or a minor, and the reason I didn't say so is because I was actually omitting the third. So an E flat major would be an E flat, G, and B. And an E flat minor would be an E flat, G flat, and B flat. Now, by playing just the first and the fifth, I really wasn't playing neither G nor G flat, so I was neither playing I was neither playing an E flat major nor an E flat minor. So this harmonic ambiguity is a big asset when you're playing at the lower registers. You don't want to play the third because the third tends to muddy the sound of the chord. However, having said that, there are some cases, and I suggest you simply experiment. There are cases where the third does add a bit of definition to the chord. For example, taking this first C chord, let's play instead a C major chord. And I'll do this by taking this C over here and playing an E. See, now I'm playing all of the notes of a C major chord. I have a C, an E, and a G, and another C here. Play together, they sound like this. I'm still keeping the intervals fairly close, so I wouldn't play, for example, something like this. I find this to be a bit too crowded in terms of the notes used, because I have a C, G, and E here. I omit the C, so I have some space going between the notes. And that makes, in my opinion, the sound a little more well-defined. This works better the higher up you go up the keyboard. You know, if I try to do the same trick here, let's say I play a G chord, and this is getting really low. See, down here, even the fifth sounds a bit muddy. If I were to add the third, then that will really lose a lot of its definition. You know, it sounds like the chord is, the notes don't stand out. So, going back to the bit I played at the beginning, and I'm going to bring back the strings here, I was playing a C, and the second chord was an E flat, and it actually was an E flat sus2, because look what I'm doing here. I have an E flat, B flat, so I have an octave here and a fifth here and another fifth here, and this fifth, which goes from B flat to F, if I take this F down and I add the E flat again, what I'm playing here in the right hand is an E flat sus2. And this is another thing that you should keep in mind when playing in the lower registers. You want sometimes or many times sus2 and sus4 chords, of course spread out, will actually sound good. So I would many times go for a sus2 or sus4 over something that looks like a triad. Minor chords are also very, very effective in the lower register. For example, let's play a C major, and immediately after it, play a C minor. And now let's play an F sus4 going to an F. I'm actually not very happy about the voicing of the last chord, because these two sound a bit too close together. So maybe instead I'll play I can get away with this with these two close notes here, the C and an E, which are a major third apart, because they're high enough on the in the register. So if I were to play them here, they really wouldn't sound good. An octave above, they're okay. So I think I'm going to stop here. I hope I've given you some food for thought, and maybe you'll go out and explore how to play in the lower registers, how to translate some of the things you know into these sort of dramatic or this dramatic part of the piano. I would also recommend that you don't play too fast in the lower register. Again, when you do something like a fast arpeggio, it doesn't sound good. It just sounds mushy. So the lower register is very dramatic, it's very full. It's kind of like, you should think of it kind of like maybe a bear. Maybe not the best analogy because bears can be very fast, but it's a really big and powerful weapon, but it's very slow. So you should be careful not to maybe play too fast or play the notes too close together. Just be mindful of these things. That's it. I hope you've learned something interesting, and I'll see you next time.